Hey, okay, so it's been a while since I've put any videos on YouTube, and I was recently asked to do a challenge with a friend and do one video a day on YouTube for 30 days. I think that's a great idea because there's a lot of information to share, so why not? Today's video, I am going to do an update to some of my most watched videos on my YouTube channel. There's not very much on there right now. There will be more. But I wanted to give an update on some of my biggest videos on there around post-tubal ligation syndrome. I had posted a couple of years ago about the process that I went through getting my tubes tied, getting an endometrial ablation. I'm now a couple of years out, and I have a lot to say. So I'm going to actually keep this one kind of short because I haven't went back and seen what my other videos I had posted about. Shortly after getting my tubes tied in the endometrial ablation, I realized that I in fact it kind of threw my body into menopause, and I was only 36 years old. Way too young to be going through menopause. Maybe some simple symptoms, right? You know, with all the stuff that we have in the world today going on and pushing females towards this type of thing with all the wonderful products that we use. But I knew something was wrong right away. It didn't level out for me. So within 3 months, I found a really great surgeon down in Louisiana that I flew to and had my tubes reversed. Obviously, there was no reversing the endometrial ablation. I had Novasure, and there is no reversing that. It's not a good procedure. Something I wish that I wouldn't have done. As of now, I do not have periods, which most women will be like, oh, yay, that's great. And that's what I thought at the time. But it's not great. It's really not. Currently, so it's been 4 years, 5 years, something like that, 3 or 4 years. I'll have to look it up just to see for sure. But about a year ago, I went and had plastic surgery, and I had a tummy tuck, and I had the skin removed, and I had my muscles repaired. I had a little over 4 centimeter muscle separation from 3 kids. So I was really excited. I was actually planning that surgery before I did the tubal ligation because I wanted to get rid of the skin. But once I did the tubal and realized there was something wrong, the money I had saved went for the reversal. And I'm glad that I did it because about 80% of my symptoms disappeared within, I don't know, probably 30 days. And they've continued to get better. What I have noticed still lingering is I still have like my monthly cycle time where my hormones are, doing their thing. And sometimes some of those symptoms are stronger than others because of the surgery that I had, and it didn't really fix everything. Some of those symptoms are definitely the brain fog. I had what was called burning tongue, where the whole inside of my tongue, like all right there, it would just burn. It would start early in the morning, and by the end of the night, it was way worse. It was horrible. It eventually, maybe the last 2 years, it's been completely gone. 1.5 2 years. I'm not on any medications. I'm not on any hormone supplements. I do not see a doctor regularly. I don't see any doctors regularly. I chose to have surgery, plastic surgery, through so much research, literally researching every single medication they were going to give me because I had already kind of known that there was stuff up with our medical system when I went in for my tubal ligation, but I didn't put the pieces together. I really wish that I would have. It is what it is. Sometimes we go through things to be able to share our experiences. And I'm not saying that every woman is going to have an adverse reaction to having their tubes tied. I'm going to say most will. You may not realize it till down the road. I've got some really great friends that have fibromyalgia. I mean, I even dug in and researched what happens when you have your uterus taken out, how it affects your brain, and there's like receptors in your uterus and your tubes and everything else that connect to your brain, and so much stuff. One thing to remember is that our bodies were made perfect, right? Our bodies were made perfect. All those organs, you need them if you can keep them. Medical emergencies happen, right? So several years later, I am not the person I was before. I don't think I'll ever be. I definitely can feel very few of the side effects of my anxiety. Panic attacks were a big one for me. Those, for the most part, I had never had a panic attack until I had that surgery. And then shortly after that surgery, I began having panic attacks. And they were something like I've never felt. I've had depression. I had a little bit of anxiety. It is something I don't wish on my worst enemy, because I couldn't find a way to stop them and I didn't want to use medication. For the most part, I don't have panic attacks anymore. I have had a little bit before I was getting ready to go in for my tummy tuck. I started having some real big anxiety and panic attacks around surgery, just because I also know that anesthesia, it takes me longer to detox. So I usually mentally get drugged down, like I'm depressed, things like that. So I kind of had some panic attacks before my surgery, but I went through the entire process of my surgery knowing everything that was going to happen, researching my doctor for a very, very long time, knowing what each medication, what the effect was going to be. There was no painkillers for me after abdominoplasty. I used only Tylenol and Motrin, which I don't even think is that great either. But, hey, let's be honest, they cut a lot of skin off. So my surgeon used a pain medication called Exparel, and that helped tremendously along with Tylenol and stuff. But leading up to the surgery, I felt myself, the anxiety setting in, and not just fear of having surgery. It was legit and it was real. And I had the panic attacks that started. And one thing that I've used to manage those is breathing. I get people that laugh at me sometimes because they're like, why are you always woo-sahing everything? Because I'm like, woo-sah. And I like deep breathe, because it will immediately calm your nervous system if you take in a deep breath and you hold it and then you blow it all out. So several years after post-tubal ligation syndrome, my tubes I had them reversed, but when I did have them reversed, the doctor did tell me that they ran fluid through, and one was pretty much already closed right away. They couldn't really save it, which I wasn't trying to get pregnant. I was just trying to reverse some of the effects. So I wasn't worried about them being open. In fact, I was kind of hoping they closed. And I'm pretty in tune with my body, so I could almost tell the moment they closed. I had surgery in December, and I feel like maybe in February or March after that, I felt them close. I know that sounds crazy, but there was a few symptoms that just popped back up. And then the other one, the other tube it had moderate flow, and this was years ago. So I'm sure with the way my body produces scar tissue, that it's closed. As of today, I haven't had any major issues with the endometrial ablation so far. I'm not expecting to have issues, but 65% of women that have the endometrial ablation end up with a hysterectomy, because it's about the only way to solve it. And I'm real big on natural medicines, but once you've done something like that to your body, it's really hard to come back from. It's not impossible, but it's really hard to come back from. So I'm just going to keep doing what I'm doing, and I have definitely changed my life. I work out almost every day just because it makes me feel better. I've changed a lot of my eating. I take good supplements. I drink lots of water, lemon water, detox stuff. So I think all those things attribute to me feeling very healthy at 40 years old. And that's what they tell me anyways. So I don't know if this is your journey, if this has been your journey. I know there's been women in here that have commented on my videos, and I've been able to help them and lead them to, maybe not doing that or looking at something else. Listen, if your doctor says that permanent sterilization doesn't have side effects, they're lying. Almost every doctor I talk to after the fact said 60+% have some type of side effect. And usually after tying your tubes or anything with your reproductive system, women get really heavy periods. They don't know why. They can't figure it out. It's terrible. It's horrible. Well, you just mess with your reproductive system. So a permanent sterilization is, in some people's mind, needed, and I get it. I'm not telling women not to do it. Not at all. I'm just saying that an informed decision is so much better than going into something and then having something happen and be like, nobody told me. Because I can guarantee you that when I went back to my gynecologist to talk to her 3 months later, they wanted to put me, it was actually 3 weeks later, and then a month later, and then 5.5 weeks later, because they were testing my hormones. And she's like, oh my God, you're in menopause. And I'm like, right, that's what I'm trying to tell you. But she, of course, wanted to prescribe antidepressants for me. So being your own medical advocate, because guess what? Our doctors don't know all. You know your body better than they do. I promise you that. So yeah, thanks for listening.